Hi, this is Noel Rice from Falafel Software. This is the first in a series of videos on using TypeScript to generate JScript that you're using in your TestComplete tests, and more critically to help build frameworks for your tests that are easy to maintain. So there's a few things that we're going to need. All of these I've got links for in this repo on bitbucket.org, Noel at Falafel, TestComplete-TypeScript. bitbucket.org, Noel Falafel, TestComplete-TypeScript. So all the links you need to get started are here. If you don't have, if you're not using Git as your source repository, then you can go to the downloads page and just download the repo as a zip file. So we'll need a few things besides TestComplete. We'll need the TypeScript compiler, and we'll need an editor that understands TypeScript. TestComplete doesn't have a TypeScript-aware editor plugin just yet, so we can use an external editor for the purpose. Now, you may already have the compiler on your machine if you've installed Visual Studio. You can tell in pretty short order by typing in TSC, the TypeScript compiler, on command line. If it responds, then it's on your path and you're good to go. If that's not the case, then you'll need to install it. We can go to the TypeScript home page, which is TypeScriptLang.org. Go to the download, which doesn't actually have a download per se. It has a Node Package Manager compile command line instruction here. So you'll need Node Package Manager that comes along for the ride with Node.js, which I also happen to have a link for here. So you can get the installer for that. It'll bring down Node.js and install npm at the same time. Once you've got that set to go, you can come back to the TypeScript lang and get this command to execute the install for TypeScript globally on your machine so you can run it from anywhere. After you've got the compiler ready to go, the next thing you need is an editor. All of these will work. They all have an understanding of TypeScript, or they have plugins that understand TypeScript. So I've used Sublime, Atom. Both of these are good. Lots of people swear by Eclipse, WebStorm, etc. I'll be using Visual Code for this. I think Visual Studio is a bit of overkill. I'm going to go ahead and go to the download page, and I'll pause through the parts where we're just waiting for downloads. We'll run the install. I accept. I'm going to put this on my D drive. My particular setup. On the last page here, we're going to create a desktop icon. We'll add it to the path so we can run it from anywhere, and we'll run Visual Studio Code after the install. Back after the install, go ahead and finish. That'll run Visual Studio Code. This is our first time into it, so we don't have a folder opened up. We don't have any notion of a project just yet. So I checked into the repo, this Visual Studio project suite, TestComplete TypeScript suite, that contains framework project. We'll create our framework, and that has the script project item that will drop our JS files into our JavaScript files. We'll create our TypeScript environment right inside this folder. So this is pretty stripped down. This is the directory that it comes from. Get back up to the root. So this is the project suite. The README is the information that you see on the repo homepage here. Drill down into the framework project, into script, and there's nothing there except for the TestComplete files. So we'll go ahead to Visual Studio Code, and we're going to open up that folder. We're down at the inside the framework project. We'll go into the script folder and select it. This becomes the scope of our project. There's another piece in order to make it an actual project from Visual Studio Code's perspective, and that's to add a tsconfig file. I have an example tsconfig.json file here that defines basically the scope of what the project is going to be. We'll add a directory. It's a new folder called TS. This is where we will put our TypeScript. all the generated JS files will be out in the root of the script folder. So inside of the root here, we're going to add a file, which will be the TestConfig.json, and I'll paste the directives here. So there's a few directives you might want to know about. No-lib is important because there are some definitions that are generally for web applications that aren't going to be helpful to us. So we'll just leave that out. Later on, we'll create our own definitions library to define things in TestComplete, but for now, we'll just leave it out. The target needs to be at ES3, not one of the later, because TestComplete is at 5.8 of JavaScript or JScript, and that corresponds to ECMAScript 3. So ES3 is what you want for the target. The rooter for the TypeScript is going to be the root.ts. The output JavaScript will be in the root, so in the script file. And that's enough to get us going here. The next piece that we need is a way to compile JavaScript, and so we need a task for that. So we can go hit F1. This will get us a set of commands, and I'll just type in config and configure the task runner. So possibilities here are a number of different runners and builders that we can use, but I'm going to use the TSConfig.json. Select that, and that will also create this task.json as well. This will define the command line TSC and its arguments. So from here, we can start to build or create classes and then build them. So inside of TS, let's go ahead and create a desktop object that we can use in our tests, but it will be fairly bare bones. So we'll say class, this will be desktop. Now, because this will be compiled into a JS file that will be read by TestComplete, we want to give this a different name than the class that we're going to put in it. So by convention, I'm just using unit on the end. You can use, there's no established convention, so you can go ahead and do whatever you like as long as the unit name is different than your class name. So now I want to create a class desktop. This will just be have a single property, so we'll have a public name that's a string, and we can have a constructor, pass in the name, and for this first test we'll just be passing this in and out. So this dot name gets the name, and that's our whole class right there. So we can save that. For VS Code we can use Control Shift B, and that will build, assuming that we've got that task set up, which we do. And notice that we have got a desktop unit.js that got produced here. So this is the emitted code. An actual just straight JavaScript at this point. And we can actually load this into our project and use it in TestComplete. So I can right click, add existing item. TestComplete uses SJ files, but star.js will work just as well. So we can bring in the desktop unit.js. We've included it as part of our project, and I'm going to create another unit here. So use desktop. I'll use the desktop unit, add a unit reference to that, and we'll create a simple test here. Our desktop gets new desktop, it finds it, give an argument to the constructor, and then we'll say we want to log this out. Now, because we're out here in JavaScript land, we're not getting any IntelliSense for this part here, which we will get when we're back in TypeScript. So later we'll build even the tests out in TypeScript. For right now, we just want to make sure that we can come full circle here. We can feed something into a property and have it come out. And there's my desktop, and we're good to go.